Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday and happy Tuesday night talk with teachers. Starting just a little bit early just to make sure everything goes well. So, hopefully, you are having a good start to the week as well as a good end to the day. For all of you educators, all you educators that are actually starting back school this week or have started within the last few weeks. I hope you are doing well. For you parents, and your students. God, I'm just off today. For you parents and your children, I hope that all is going well. I'm not sure what it's been like in a lot of other states, but I will say that here in South Carolina, there definitely has been some concerns about students going back, and the either controversy or just uncertainty about different schools or school districts not having a mask mandate. So I can say for my university, University of South Carolina, we just won a lawsuit today, which allows us, literally within hours, that allows masks to be mandated on campus. And so our president tried implementing that about a week or so ago, or about 2 weeks ago. Did not work, but the ruling came down today. So starting tomorrow, masks can be required of students, or really I think anyone on campus. Now, that does not mean that they are required to be vaccinated. It doesn't go that far. But if you are indoors, you're in the classrooms, the lectures, office buildings, you have to wear a mask. And so that's going to be a sigh of relief for a lot of faculty, staff, and just quite honestly, students as well, other individuals that are going to be on campus. So that is what we're preparing for at the University of South Carolina, and that is also applicable to other colleges, universities, and institutions in the state of South Carolina. Now, don't know what happened. There's still a battle going on as far as what that's going to look like for elementary schools, middle schools. There really hasn't been much said about high schools, but that is what we've been dealing with here in the state of South Carolina. So bear with me really quickly as I like to pull up myself on the laptop just in case there is some commentary that goes on, and I like to see myself. So I do want to thank one of my good friends, my childhood friends, Tiara O'Neill. If you tuned in last week, I was talking with her. So as I mentioned, we go back like a long time. All right, Tameka, I see you. So let me try to bring you in. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And today I think you're definitely going to enjoy it because we're going to be talking to Coach Tameka Williamson. So let me try to bring her on in. Hold on, Tameka. Oops. As I get you on here. So let's see how it goes. So Tameka, I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I swear every Tuesday it is always something with Facebook Live. It doesn't want me and others to be great. So hopefully it's coming through on your end that you'll see it and we'll get you in. But as I was previously saying, I want to thank Tiara for chiming in and sharing about her T's Kitchen as well as Lady Bites. And everyone, if you have not watched the 6th episode of Lady Bites where they are actually trying out the durian fruit, which is like banned in a lot of countries because of the pungent odor as well as the very unique taste, you need to check it out. So Tameka, I'm trying to, and make sure, I think I mentioned this, Tameka, make sure you're on your phone because that is the only way I'll be able to bring you on because again, Facebook Live doesn't want you to be great and you can't do it by your laptop, and I don't have that type of software on here. So just make sure you're on your telephone. Hey Sherry, hey DeRay, and everybody else who is watching. So we could go ahead and get started. So again, we are going to be talking with Tameka Williamson. Can't wait to share. Oh, Tameka, I think we got you. Let's adding, fingers crossed. first time will be a charm, so we don't have to try it all over again. Let's see. Connecting. There we go.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. So let me turn up myself so I can hear. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome.
Awesome. So everybody, good evening and welcome. I'd like to introduce you to Coach Tameka Williamson. So I always typically have a story about everybody that comes on. I either know them personally or they have been recommended. So the backdrop about me and Tameka is that we met early on in our careers. So I'm an educator right now at the University of South Carolina, but prior to that, prior to working at the military base, I was an environmental engineer at General Motors. And my first location was in Mansfield, Ohio. So graduated Michigan State, got assigned to my first plant, which was in Mansfield, Ohio. And it was a unique experience because I was not expecting to see so many young Black professional engineers or individuals in the positions. So me and Tameka were two of a handful. We had, Tameka, I don't know if you remember everybody, but we had Latia, we had Rob, we had Katrina. Like, it was just a bunch of us either out of out of college or been in the field for a while. So that's where we know each other, and where our journey has taken us is very interesting. So thank you, Tameka. So to ask you before we get started about that, well, no, let's do it this way, because I want you to share about your career and how it's led to what you're doing now. So how did you even get started in General Motors?
Well, getting started at General Motors, so young folks, if you're listening, networking, the power of your network. I graduated from an HBCU, Southern University, and yes, I gotta represent. But I was looking for a job. I was in the market. I was in the market for a job. I was actually at that time in nuclear defense.
Oh,
So you can only imagine that environment. But I was looking for a change. And somebody in my network, somebody I went to college with, introduced me to the tool and die program at General Motors, was like, hey, apply, send me your resume, and the rest was history. You know, I went through the process, got hired.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So was your first location Mansfield as well?
Yes, Mansfield, Ohio. Oh my.
So for those who are not familiar, if you're not familiar with the state of Ohio or just the Midwest, it is almost like directly in between Cleveland and Columbus. So smack dab in the middle. Like a lot of places, it was probably the largest employer. So it brought in a lot of different people, So it was, if you never worked in a plant or automotive or industrial atmosphere, yeah, it's interesting.
Very interesting. And I think it was the first town, I'm gonna call it a town and not a city. It's the first town I lived in that didn't have a Walmart.
You know what? It did. Well, eventually it got one, and it got a super Walmart after a while, because I left after about 3 years.
Okay, yeah, they didn't have it when we were there. All we had was Myers, because I used to drive to Columbus, and I used to do all my shopping and stuff. Super Walmart there.
Yep. So yeah, Mansfield was an interesting place. I mean, it had its ups and downs, it had its challenges, but it definitely, my foot into my career, it was something special. So that's where we started. So please just start off with your journey about how you have gotten to where you are now. You don't have to talk about quite, the business that you have, but how did you transition from being in that technical engineering type setting to your, what you're doing with education?
I never thought I would be where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from an educational standpoint, I always figured I would teach because I had already served as an adjunct professor prior to moving to Mansfield.
Okay.
So I knew I would probably eventually go back into that. Now, I just didn't anticipate, plan, expect to do it at the level I'm doing it as well. So being a coach, being a trainer, that was the furthest thing from my mind. Training
Okay.
people and traveling the world, doing training classes, leadership development, coaching, all that stuff. None of that was part of my vision, to be
Okay.
honest. I've always had an interest in developing people and elevating people, helping them to be their best selves. But I thought it would just come from in the spirit of me being a leader within the organization,
Okay.
and or through the adjunct professor role or mentorship or something like that. I never thought it would be at the level in the roles that I'm occupying today.
Okay. And so, those who don't know, and I'll let you expound on it because you could definitely go into detail. As she's already mentioned, she's a coach, she's an author. Um, and I think that the new thing that I want to share, especially because I kind of look at this month as back to school, is how she's changing and impacting lives of families as it relates to getting students into colleges debt free. And so that's the big thing, because sometimes it's the conversations of, I want to go to school, but I just don't have the money. I want to go to school, but my family can't pay for it. I want to go to school, but I don't want to come out on the lot. And so, any job that I end up getting is just going to pay back those student loans. And so what you're doing is just amazing, because it's letting people know that opportunity for higher education is there, and you don't have to be inconvenienced if you put in the work, so it is
Yeah.
nothing magical to it. But please share like that, this journey that you're on.
So I really take it back to my foundation as an engineer.
Okay.
Because I literally just got off a strategy call with one of my I don't know, I just call it my thought partners or whatever I want to. I don't even have a title for him because he just kind of he kind of fits the many different roles. Let me just say that. But we were
Okay.
actually just kind of thinking through and talking through an assessment that I'm working on and working to build out as such. And he was like, "Well, this is very well thought out, but heck, you're an engineer. That's just how your brain works." So,
Mm-hmm.
and as an engineer, because of the roles that I've had when I was in corporate America before I moved into management, but even when I got into management, it still was all about problem solving. It was all about how to prevent problems from happening. So my Six Sigma training, being a black belt, being a professional project manager, all those things play a role in how I think, how I move, how I function in every aspect of my life. So from when you look at the college spectrum and what I'm doing there, like I said, I never thought I would be there. It's a problem. All right, so how do I solve the problem? And everything that I do and the way I approach it, it really goes back to my time as an engineer. As engineers, we're scientists.
Mm-hmm.
We are scientists who create solutions that solve problems. And with being a scientist, go to Albert Einstein, you cannot solve a problem on the level on which it was attained. You have to be able to think at another level. So how do you prevent problems from happening? It takes more to prevent a problem than it does to just solve it after it's created. So for me, how do we prevent the problem? So the way I approach my my programs, my college for free programs, killing the college game, is really coming from the lens of prevention and mitigation. If we have the knowledge beforehand, then we can prevent the debt from happening. It's
Okay.
hard to go to college and acquire the debt and then try to talk about, well, how am I going to pay it off? If I had that answer, I'll be a rich woman. And my student loan debt will be paid off as well. So
Amen.
we have to change how we think about this process and rethink it. How do I prevent myself from getting into debt?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bigger question. That's the bigger challenge. And that is how I'm trying to shift the paradigm to get families to start thinking from that perspective. Because this whole approach that we continue to fall under, student loan debt is good debt. Okay, we've been saying that for a long time. It's time to let that horse die. That
Yeah.
is no longer true. We have plenty of data to support that. How about we look at preparation and prevention
Mm-hmm.
first? And that's where I'm at. I'm trying to teach families the rules of engagement, how to prepare and how to prevent based on understanding the rules of engagement as it relates to college admissions and college funding, because it's a game.
Mm-hmm.
And as an athlete, in order for me to be a successful post player in basketball, I had to understand the rules of engagement. I had to know how to post up. I had to know when was a smart time to foul, when was not a smart. I mean, all those different things contributed to me being able to dominate the field. Dominate the court versus me just being another person on the court.
Yeah.
So once you understand how to play the game, then you know how to win. And so that's what we do with our families. We teach them how to play the game so that they know how to win. And winning for us is being able to do college, preferably without debt. And if you have to take on debt, it has to make sense. So getting away from making emotional decisions to making decisions that makes dollars and cents.
Okay. And so with your program and the coaching that you do, how early do you start engaging families and students? Are you looking at as far back as middle school? Are you trying to catch them as freshmen? Like how really soon are you starting to have these conversations, or at least have parents or families start thinking about these conversations?
You know what? Believe it or not, we have a program for every level, because that's the
Okay.
other part of the problem. Many families here in the US, especially in our communities of color, the lack of knowledge, people perish from a lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We wait until our kids are high school juniors and seniors to start talking about college, to start thinking about how we're going to pay for it, to start thinking about, okay, well, how do you apply for scholarships? Where are scholarships? More often than none, oh, we got admitted to the school now. Let's think about how we're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's the wrong sequence. That's the wrong order. You're putting the cart before the horse, and that never works. So we created a program at each level, because there's a certain level of preparation you can do for your kids in elementary school. There are scholarships that are available as early as kindergarten. So there are certain focal points parents of students in kindergarten, K through sixth grade, can focus on. And then we have a different level of focus for our middle school students. And then when you start talking about that period of really getting serious and focus on college admissions and understanding the game, that time really should start in eighth grade at the latest, because
Okay.
that transition from middle school to high school is very pivotal in having a sound strategy together, especially if you want your child, or your child is looking to go to an Ivy League school. So
Mm-hmm.
the more competitive that school is that your child is seeking to get into and go to, the earlier you definitely need to start. But at the end of the day, colleges look at what students have done, are doing from ninth grade year to 11th grade year. So when you start in the 11th grade thinking about, well, let's see, I want to go to this school, so let me start getting ready. The time to get ready is not the time to be ready.
Yeah.
And most of our families, unfortunately, are starting the process too late.
So what has been the conversations that you had with families that say, well, even though I want to start early, I just don't think we can afford it. Like, help me try to find funding, scholarships, grants, things of that nature, but I don't think that I could, have enough money to save for it. What are the conversations that you're having with them, or what are resources that you try to share to let them know it is possible for you with planning and some, effort put forth?
Yeah, so if you know you don't have the money, and the reality is this, most of us don't. Most families don't have the money. Come on, we just start looking at average tuition for a state school. You're talking about $30,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's extrapolate that out. Students are taking what, 5 to 6 years to graduate on average. It's no longer really 4 years. So I
Yeah.
tell folks, you plan for the worst, you prepare for the best. Well, no, you prepare for the worst and you hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just take $30,000 times 5. That's $150,000. Your average family is not sitting on that type of liquid asset that where they can write the check. So let's just keep it real. Most families cannot afford to pay for college. It doesn't mean families aren't doing it. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about strategy and, again, understanding the rules of engagement. So there's multiple things you have to look at. You have to look at your risk factor in terms of your family. What's your financial risk? What's your academic risk? So academic risk is all about how well your student's profile, their portfolio, how strong it is. Because
Mm-hmm.
there are certain things schools are looking for. And if your kids don't possess those particular qualities, those more challenging and difficult schools is going to be a challenge for them to get into. And what's required to get admitted is very different from what's required to get funded. So you have to look at all the different elements. It is a layered and a tiered process that's required. So you have an admissions path, you have a funding path, and they both require a different set of tasks, different level of preparation. Now the funding path, because that's a tall order. You start talking about $150,000 on the low end.
Yeah.
All right, we
And
need to
you just
start
said
sooner.
tuition, like, you haven't counted in anything else, no books, nor
Yeah,
equipment.
we're
Just
not even really factoring in
okay.
book, transportation to and from home, because parents don't think about that. And that is a major problem for many students. They get to college. Some of them can't even afford to get to college. Let's just talk about that. But that's a whole nother conversation. We're not even talking about the fact that schools on average increase tuition and fees 5 to 7% every year.
Mm-hmm.
So you barely making the number, the COA when you first start. And then if there's a 5 to 7% increase, how are you compensating for that? And
Yeah.
then, I mean, there's so many layers and so many scenarios and stories I've seen where people have come asking for help, and I'm like, hey, I love Jesus, but I'm not a miracle worker,
And I don't
you
have
know.
free money just sitting there either. So
Oh, absolutely not. And so you have to think about, see, the way we approach the college process is this: you got to have all the money up front before you even start school. You got to know how all years will be funded, because here's what I constantly hear, and I've seen too many times. We're going to get through year 1 and we're going to figure out years 2, 3, 4, and 5. I don't know how you're going to figure out 30, 40, $50,000 a year. I just don't know how you're going to do it, because nobody's job is given that type of increase. So how
yeah.
are you going to figure it out? And what happens is that student ends up back home because they can't afford to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can just start going down the list of all the things that happens when your student comes back home. So how do we prevent that? We have to think beforehand, but we have to understand, again, there's an admissions path, there's a funding path, and you must work them simultaneously, because some of them are connected, some are independent of one another, but they all are necessary. They
Okay.
all are necessary. And of course, again, that funding path needs to start sooner. So you got scholarships. That's only one small percentage of this process, because the other part of funding is understanding where you sit as a family. Are you a merit-based family versus a need-based family? Or do you sit between the two? Because if you, that's what I call the sweet spot. You get to play in both lanes.
Okay.
Depending on the lane you're in, if you're a merit-based family versus a need-based family, it's going to dictate what schools you go after. It's going to dictate your approach. It's going to dictate what scholarships you go after. But families aren't thinking about it at that level. They don't even know that they need to be thinking about it at that level.
Yeah.
So what they do is they make decisions based on emotions. Well, this is the school I graduated from. This is the school. This is okay. Here's the all-time favorite. That's my child's dream school.
Okay.
That's my baby's dream school. And I want them to go to their dream school. Look, dream school. Here's what I say about dream schools. Focusing on a dream school is like dating somebody who's just not that into you. Because more often than none, the dream school your child is picking and they want to go to, that family cannot afford it.
And
So that
say that from experience. I dated the guy that didn't want me. Now, I'll put this disclaimer. It worked out for me. I have student debts. But Tameka is telling you there needs to be a reality check, because I should have went to the two schools that offered me full ride scholarships. That's another conversation. But I went to my dream school. I'm sorry, Tameka. Just wanted to put that out because people, that's what we do.
that's what we do, and that's what our parents support, because they're like, well, I want them to make the decision versus we make the decision. And I'm like, well, who's the parent, who's the child? Because you got to think about the long-term ramifications of this. And it really hurts when you make the sacrifice, i.e., parent plus loans, pulling equity out of your home, pulling money out of your retirement so they can go to their dream school, you going into debt as a parent, the child going into debt, now the whole family in debt. This child get to school, you know what? I don't like this. This ain't what I want to do. I don't want to go to college no more. Or they flunk out, because I've seen that happen too.
Mm-hmm.
They got to college and got buck wild, got on academic probation, and got kicked out. Now they got out of debt. I mean, there's so many scenarios I can share with you, and I'm like, okay, come on now. Some of this stuff we could have prevented. And so
Yeah.
I just want to challenge families to shift their paradigm and to shift how they think and reevaluate this process, which is what I'm calling the college reboot. That's one of the next books that's coming out. It's time for us, it's a state of emergency. And it's time for families to rethink how they do college,
Okay. Well, I do want to say,
including should we get is that it, including whether or not a degree, 4-year degree, is the best path for your student.
well, I'm glad you bring that up because that was actually going to be a question I was going to ask. Although I was going to put in a plug for y'all. Thank you allowing me to go to Michigan State, even though we couldn't afford it. Go green. Um, so to that point, how how difficult, and I mean, I know you're coming from a place where it's only trying to help people, families be their best, but how difficult of a conversation is it to have with families and even with the students? I don't know how much assessment you do in saying that, maybe a 4-year institution isn't for you right now, but look at other options, whether it's a 2-year college, technical, whatever it may be. How does that conversation go? Because I mean, we see the memes, we see it, like I think just today somebody posted on social media about, the difference between this person has taken a track of going through, higher education. This person has decided to go like through a technical school, get a trade, and now, their path is a little bit different. So how is it having those conversations with families?
So that, I mean, that's a great question. How we always approach it. One of the things I always make sure we ensure our families know and understand in terms of our approach is this. our goal is to make sure whatever your post-secondary decision is, it is one that allows you to earn a livable wage. And it is one that, along with that, you're going to be happy with. Because that whole pursue your passion and be broke, okay, that don't make sense. Let's see how we can take your passion and monetize it. So we'll have strategy sessions to look at how to parlay certain skills, and we do have career assessments that we use to help facilitate those conversations. I look at like our seniors from this recent class this past year, class of 2021. I have two seniors who graduated who decided not to do the 4-year path.
Okay.
Although they initiated the 4-year path, but they decided, you know what, this is what I really want to do. So we had conversations around that. Okay, so if that's what you want to do, one decided they wanted to go become a paramedic. All right, so we're going to do a paramedic. All right, cool. I know somebody who's done that. I paired them up with a person. We had a conversation. I let them ask them questions. So we help support whatever that path is, because the goal, again, is to pursue a path that allows them to earn a livable wage, but also help them think through all the different aspects of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. Have you considered this? Do you know what the risk factors are? Do you know what the challenges are? And those are the things we talked about. And the parents are engaged in that process. And so it worked out. It worked out. But we're in an environment where there are so many more options. When you and I were coming through school, it was really, you either work a job until you retire. What our parents come from the generation of, you need to get that good old pension. You need to stay on the job at least 5 years and all that stuff. Or you go to the military, or you go to college, community college, trades, and they were not popular. They were not something that people promoted.
Now, like, their significance, they definitely didn't get it when we were like, just coming into college.
Absolutely. But we're in a different environment now, much different environment. And so part of my conversation with my scholars, when we do the assessments and we're talking about this, is, hey, have you thought about this? Because I know, like here in Georgia, we have 17 career paths students can pursue that's high demand, that falls under our technical school, that's fully funded. So does it really make sense? And some of them is a better path than doing the 4-year degree, because many of the 17 career pathways, depending on what you major in, shoot, they're going to make more money taking the 18-month path than a person who did a 4-year path.
Okay.
And then now you got Google with their own certificate programs, and I think Amazon's coming out with one, or Apple has one. So there's so many disruptors. You have to look at the full scale of what the options are, because forcing your child to go to college and going into debt, or even just wasting money, that's just too much money to waste, and that doesn't make sense either.
Well, what are some of the conversations you're having on the flip side of that? So it's the concern about, well, let me pursue my passion, but what's going to be the path for after that? But what about the families that are dead set on the path just because they do think is going to be some type of job or career that's waiting for the student once they graduate? So I'll take, for example, when I entered in state in 1998, at that time, with it being in the Midwest, especially in Detroit, it was, engineering. You got your big three there, as well as the suppliers. And so it didn't matter if you're doing civil engineering, chemical engineering. For me, although environmentalism was my passion, it was like, okay, let's pursue environmental engineering. Now, granted, once I got into college, I realized that really wasn't the path that I wanted to take. And so I knew which, I got out of the engineering program into one that was more conducive to me. Lo and behold, I still became an environmental engineer anyway. But what are those conversations that you may have had with parents or even students? They're like, you can kind of sense that they have an interest or passion or desire in another way, but they're being pushed to take this path because it seems like it's going to be something that they could get a good job or career once they graduate. Or have you had those conversations?
Well, fortunately, in terms of clients, that has not been an issue.
Okay.
And I may attribute it to, we screen our families. There's certain things we look for, and we emphasize on the beginning. I mean, in the beginning, these are the type of families we're looking for. This is what the program will do. This is what the program will not do. And we're not making the decisions for you. And so we're looking for families who are coachable and all those different things. So when I encounter a family who seems very rigid, they're very set in their ways of what they want to do, how they want to do it, we don't take them on as a client because it defies the process. College admissions is a game, and you can't force it. You can't make it do something it's not designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want our help, and you want us to help you understand that and how to navigate it so that you don't get caught up in the landmines we're trying to protect you from, you have to be coachable. You have to be open to the process. So, we've had students dead set, this is the school I want to go to. And I'll tell the parents, just let the process do what it's going to do. They're going to change their mind. I promise you, because once you get through the process, they change their mind. So
Yep.
you can't force it. You can't stress them out. You just gotta let the process happen. So there's a lot of collaborative efforts. Even behind the scenes, I tell my parents, I'm like the parent whisperer. So I know what the parents' concerns are. I know what the students' concerns are. So I'm able to approach it from a different perspective, a different angle that gets the student to see, oh, wait a minute, I think I really want to do this. And it satisfies both sides.
Okay.
And so it's all about approach. It's all about, just being open and listening to those cues and recognizing, that's what they mean. That's the direction they're trying to go in. So now you know how to govern yourself accordingly.
Okay. Now, one thing I think that has been interesting that I think for a lot of people really came to light was when we had the Obama administration and you had the first daughter, just forgot her name, Malia,
Malia.
Malia, decided to take her gap year before
Mhm.
going to college. And so I think for a lot of people, it was like, what is a gap year? You mean you're not going to go straight to high school to college? You're going to take this year to do whatever, explore, learn about yourself. So how does that fit into your program if we're thinking about like admissions and, the things that they're looking for? I'm wondering, are parents considering that more now since it's something that was kind of made popular or brought to the forefront? How could that factor in?
Yeah, we've had some families bring it up. We've discussed it. And so our approach is this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a gap year. It's all about how you do it and what you do at that time that makes a world of difference. Taking a gap year and just sitting at home and doing nothing, no, that's not a productive way to take a gap year, and it more than likely will work against you.
Okay.
So we've had conversations. We have yet to have a student take a gap year because, again, we'll lay out, hey, here's the good, here's the bad. If we're looking at it, here are the ways to actually do it and maximize it. There are gap year programs out there that students can
Are
take advantage of.
or
Say that again.
I say, are the programs connected to universities, or is it just something they can get involved in to be active until they actually go to college?
It's something they can get involved in that's
Okay.
structured. It has purpose. It produces results, and it allows them to have a story or a narrative that says, "Hey, I didn't just take a gap year and sit at home and eat bonbons and just play video games and lay in my bed all day," because
Okay.
those are not the type of students colleges are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But there are gap year programs, and there are things you can do. A AmeriCorps, you can do a missions trip. So it's all about how you spend that time. Now, somebody like Malia Obama, she could have stayed home and ate bonbons and looked at TV. With
So
her gap year, she would have been okay. But the rest of us, no, we couldn't have done that. No, it wouldn't have been this. It wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have had the same effect, or at least for that school.
yeah. So I'm wondering, do you honestly get some families who just, they're coming late to, or what we would consider they're coming late to the game? Their child is on the path to graduate and it's their junior year, their senior year. I mean, they really are in a bind. They know that they didn't do the preparation, or they found out about you after the fact. Is it really a hard, yeah, I don't think there's going to be any funding for you? Or is there, I guess what I'm asking, is there really just a lost cause? Is it the reality that sometimes it's just too late to secure any type of funding or assistance?
The simple answer to that question is yes.
Okay.
Now there are always exceptions to the rules, but we don't take them on as a client. When it comes to seniors, we have a cutoff time. So like right now, we will not take on any class of 2022 seniors for our VIP coaching program. We just won't do it. It's too late, because
Okay.
the way our strategy is designed, everything in the college admissions and funding is about timing. Early bird gets the worm.
Mm-hmm.
So our seniors are already actively working their strategy here in August.
Okay.
They have deliverables and tasks that they are working on. There's nothing, I mean, it makes that process that much more difficult. Now, one thing we're doing this year that's very different, we kind of tested it out last year. We put together a general group coaching program for those late, well, we call them late blooming seniors.
Okay.
That program will be activated come October. And people can only sign up between October, I think it's October to February. There's a short window of time, because once you get past a certain point, it's like, okay, one, it's going to require too much work, and families already be struggling and
Mm-hmm.
don't want to make the level of investment they need to make, and we charge way less than what the market charges. It just wouldn't be cost. Um, it just wouldn't be it wouldn't work from a cost perspective, but the timing perspective,
Yeah.
it's going to be that much more difficult, and their stress level is going to be way higher than they probably are going to be prepared for.
Okay.
So yes, there is such a time as really, really too late now. But like I said, there are ways to get around it. But here's the problem I've seen. It never ceased to amaze me. It's kind of like a begging person who wants to be picky.
Mm. Okay.
You can't come late to the game and then want to be picky about, well, I'm not open to these schools. Well,
Yeah.
you almost you need to just be open to any school at this juncture. So it's just more headache than it's worth.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. Make sure to start this process as early as possible so you won't be in a bind like that.
Yeah, because I've seen it happen. I mean, it's every year. It's like clockwork. I tell folks, When it hits March,
Mm-hmm.
we'll start getting those calls, because see, March is around that time a lot of your financial aid packages have already rolled out, or they're starting to roll out, and people start seeing that bottom line number. This is what you need to be able to prepare. Be able to pay. And then they
Mm-hmm.
start realizing, okay, we need more money. So I'll get those calls that say, all right, how do I find scholarship dollars to pay this bill in August? Okay, no, you approach this process backwards.
Yeah.
We can't help you. And then we'll get calls like now during this time when they're moving their babies into college and they get that
Oh,
final tuition bill.
oh,
Yes. They said we need $5,000. We need $10,000. Where can we find some money? Um, have you thought about another school?
yeah.
They don't like that. They don't like that response. But it's just reality. There's no scholarship that exists. Scholarships have a process. You got an application time where the application opens, then the application closes, then they have to review all the application submissions, then they
Mm-hmm.
make an announcement. You can't go and apply for a scholarship today, and this is not a personal loan application that you go apply for and
Yeah.
you get the results right there. No, there's no way for you to find 5, 10, 15, God forbid, $20,000 by what I've seen, all kind of stuff. They gave us to the 25th, and if we don't pay, our child gonna have to move out of college. I've seen people take their kids all the way to college, hours, tens and 15 hours away, only to turn around and come right back home because they couldn't pay the bill. Folks, listen to me. Please stop doing that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And then GoFundMe accounts, they don't work neither. Because you're gonna see those pop. You're gonna see those pop up if you hadn't seen them already.
Oh, boy.
You're gonna see some GoFundMe accounts within between now and probably the end of August. You're gonna see probably at least one.
Folks, preparation is key. Preparation is key. So, but to that end, not about the GoFundMe, but I think one of the things that we've heard, is that there is money. Like, well, no, I remember back when I was both in high school as well as, oh, we got a question. I'm gonna get to David's question in a minute. But I remember back in high school and even kind of early parts, maybe freshman year, it's like there's a scholarship or a grant or something out there for any and everybody. If you're short, you're tall, you're this and that, the money is available. So let's say you do have a family that starts early enough. Is it really there is something out there that can be gained by families who prepare? Like there's a plethora of scholarships or something that's out there.
Absolutely. Because
Okay.
to your point, there is a scholarship for everything. Every and anything. Left-handed, tall, flat-footed, wear glasses, wear contacts, ADHD, got a certain medical diagnosis. Shoot, the fact that you like poetry, you write poetry. Heck, you got creative skills. You can create a Google Doodle and get scholarship. You can create a greeting card. I mean, the sky's the limit in terms of scholarships. There are more scholarship types now than there's ever been, because you got technology at your hand. So the key is not only starting early, but you got to have a system, a strategy, and you got to be consistent. Period.
Okay.
I'll use one of my they're like my scholarship model family, and we were actually she was catching me up because they'll give me these periodic updates. Now they finished the program years ago. Her daughter Destiny just started her junior year. Let me see. Wait a minute. I lose track. I got so many babies. I think she's in her junior year. Maybe this is her senior year in college. I don't know. Time moves, but
Yeah.
they they instituted Scholarship Sunday. Scholarship Sunday. So basically, they designated time to look for, apply to, tweak, modify everything related to scholarships. And so this is one of those leadership principles, where we would teach at a leadership level. You don't let your schedule manage you, you manage your schedule. You plan for the things that's important to you. You plan for the things that you want. So they planned it and they stuck to it. Even so, she still does it today.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
because she still is doing it today, now I can't disclose all her stuff, but she's still earning scholarships while she's in college.
Wow.
She got enough money where she gets a refund check
Okay.
every semester.
And she started, so did she start prior to high school? This was like
She
when you were,
started she started in high school. So I would say they're my success family, but they also are, and I also would classify them as an anomaly.
okay.
And I say they're an anomaly because when we started working together, we ended up discovering that she could graduate early, a year early.
Okay.
And she decided, I want to graduate a year early. But she was already doing so many things. Her uh, losing that year, it may have stressed them out, but it didn't hurt her because she already had a pattern of behavior, a pattern of results. Her brand was so strong, it was easy to market her brand.
Okay.
Her brand was fundable. That's one of our terms. How fundable is your brand? She had a fundable brand. So with a few tweaks and some modifications, hey, because the thing about applying for scholarships is this: it's a very competitive, very competitive, very competitive. I'm just going to emphasize that very competitive process because there's a lot of hands in the pot. So, hey, we apply for a few, we didn't get them. All right, let's go and reevaluate this process. What do we need to tweak? What did we miss? What can we improve? So, after a few iterations, they got a rhythm going, they got a system going that started to produce results. And that system is a well-oiled run engine that is still producing results.
That's amazing.
But
So,
consistency,
mm-hmm.
consistency. Because I want to make sure everybody caught the fact that I said they dedicated every Saturday, and I mean every Sunday, and they're still doing it. And I think this is the start of her senior year now,
Okay.
junior year or her senior year. So you're talking about 5 years, 4 to 5 years of consistent behavior every Sunday. Time is dedicated to looking for, applying to scholarships, writing scholarship essays, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so people, she's saying being consistent, but it means that there's going to be some effort that has to go into it. So one of the questions David had asked is, he said, how early should I have my kids in student support office? And so basically, what is the earliest that he and his family need to start, looking at this? I think David's children, I think just kind of remember from social media, his children are young. I'm not sure if they're middle or high school. And David, please feel free to put what age your students or your children are in. But how early should parents start thinking about it?
Yeah, because I was trying to understand student support office. Is that like the counseling office or
Yeah, maybe
something?
like a counselor office, at the school, or even kind of like reaching out to you for services. Like, what's too early? Hey, I'm just being dramatic here. Are we talking about, my baby's in diapers, but I want to get as early as possible, like, and not specifically for the kids, but thinking about how the parent, because I guess this is part of the question as well. is part of what you help is not only what the family can go out and find as far as what's being offered, but do you also help them as far as, you know, managing their resources, so if they want to be a part of it? So whether it's, you know, having the conversation about setting up, what is it, a 521, or, you know, those
529.
yeah, 529, like the
Mhm.
college savings plans, or maybe, you know, if you could set aside a certain amount. So is that part of it as well, or is it more so the funding that you can go after?
So we look at everything related to the college admissions and college funding process. So from and preparing for admissions, from making sure it's funded, we look at all aspects. So we're basically full service, and we help craft strategies around that. So when you start talking about families of students who are younger in age, their strategy, of course, is going to be totally different. You know, so we're focusing more on cultivating certain behaviors, certain learning patterns that's going to help them be um, more successful by the time they get to middle school. You know, setting the stage for how to really prepare for taking standardized tests. You know, because you think about like the Duke Tip program, they start training those kids who come through the Duke Tip program, third and fourth grade, how to master the SAT, building their vocabulary, reading comprehension. So there are things families of elementary age students can do from a preparation, academic preparation standpoint. And of course, from a funding standpoint, yeah, something like a 529, um, even looking for scholarships, because there are scholarships available as early as kindergarten. So
Mhm.
there are things they can do at an early age. It may not be as in depth in terms of the strategy. It's going to be a lot simpler because, you know, we're talking about younger kids. You go tell them to go read a book. Okay, parents, you're going to have to be engaged in that process. Some of
Yeah.
them are not going to do it on their own. So there is a different approach versus a middle school student, and then definitely versus a high school student. So our VIP level deals with everything and the whole strategy, and the older kids there are more tools in place. So it just depends. But we can work with families at all levels. We just
Okay.
have that cutoff time with those late blooming seniors.
So she'll
That's
get
all.
your kids when they're in diapers, but when they grown and they're on their way out, that might be a little more challenging. But that's so, I mean, you've given some great information. And one of the things, it was so very interesting. So prior to me, let me see, David says in high school, we had a career resource paper. And during that paper, I was able to develop a relationship with the college. I'm just going to go ahead and read it. For those who are watching, I attended, we had a student support services office, which was a funding resource center that had scholarships, work studies. So that's kind of what he was alluding to.
Oh, okay. So that's when they're in college. So we don't work with students when they're in college. And the reason we don't is because
No, he said this is
every
high school.
he said high school, but he said we had a student support. Okay, wait a minute. I was able to develop a relationship with a college I attended. We had a student support. Okay, you know what? Okay, it's past my bedtime. Uh, high school.
But
All
I
right.
think
So here's the thing about that. Here's what I want to say about the high school. Well, just period. So families, hear me on this, because this is another misnomer that's out there. High school counselors, it is not their job to get your child college and career ready. So let me just repeat that. High school counselors, is not their job to get your child college and career ready. Now, some schools have more resources in place than others, where they may have more colleges coming in. They may have, I know like here we have some schools who have, I can't think of the program. Oh gosh, we're all on the board together. But
like
they come in and they do advisement, college advisement.
okay.
But they're looking at it just from the foundational level, how to get your child in college. So Did you take the ACT, SAT? Did you complete the FAFSA? Did you apply? We go beyond that because we're looking at it from a strategy standpoint. We're looking at, based on your family dynamics, what your child want to do, here are the best colleges for that, because they not only meet your family profile, but they meet your family's financial profile.
Okay.
Because I don't get caught up in numbers when schools are saying our kids got accepted to 10 Ivies and all this other stuff. All right, they got accepted. Come talk to me in August when it's time for them to go to college. How many of them actually joined or started those colleges you are bragging about in May? Because the rubber meets the road when they can pay.
Yeah.
We get caught up in, oh, my child got admitted. Most of those schools kids get admitted to, those families cannot afford.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
to me, for me, that's what's most important.
Mm-hmm.
We got to change how we think about it. Quit building the hype around the name and the brand of the school. Let's talk about the practicality of them picking a school that they actually can afford to go to. So that way their dreams aren't crushed. This is the school I wanted to go to and we didn't have the money and I couldn't go. How about we set them up to dream about a school that they can actually not only get into, but they actually can have money to pay for it.
Yeah. I would agree. So good. Thank you, David, for asking that question. What I was going to say, because I know we're getting close. It's 10 o'clock. It hit my bedtime as well. But one of the things was very interesting is that, you know, we're Facebook friends. And so I see what you post, and I've been well aware of the program that you have, the books that you've written. But it threw me off guard. I was working at Fort Jackson in the field doing tank inspections, and I was listening to Rick and Sasha. And what is it? Friday, she does her kind of highlight of a woman, you know, who's just doing great things. And Miss Tameka was highlighted. And so I was like, oh, I know her and I know, you know, the great things that you've done. But one of the things I would like for you to share is that you've given great information. And a result of that is how much, I think you shared this on when you were talking to her, but how much funding have you been able to help find or secure for your clients? Like, what is that number that, you know, that you can say, hey, you know, look, this of the hard work that you have put in, this is what families were able to get or secure?
So when we add up the totality, because we engage families at different levels, our families have been able to garner over $75 million in scholarships.
Jesus. Over how long?
Oh gosh. I always lose track of when we one of my first babies, UCLA. That was, oh my gosh. This is 2021, because you know COVID, shoot, I don't lost track of time.
Last year, one of my other friends, she has dubbed 2020 the lost year, and it is fitting.
I'm not gonna dub it the lost year, because I think that we can benefit from everything. You can get something out of everything. And so 2020, it was definitely not a lost year, because I still gained some things in 2020. I was able to reset and all those things. But so I always have to count back. So I'm like, okay, the book came out, the first edition came out in what, 2010, I think, somewhere around there. So I think 2013, I think, was probably our first coaching client, somewhere around 2013, 2014.
So we're looking at, in less than a decade. So yes, David, in less than a decade, $75 million that has been secured for families who have put in work, you know, gone through the program, worked with Tameka to get funding secure for education. I don't know how many of us could say put up numbers like that, you know, thinking about what value we've added to corporations, but that is amazing. And just kudos to the work that you and your team is doing. And David says, when are y'all two going out for lunch? Well, David, you need to reach out to her because actually that's what I'm going to ask you now. Tameka, please, before we finish, share your information, how people can reach you. And I actually want to get your website so they can go to it if they're watching this later, and click. So you can always catch her on Facebook by Tameka L Williamson. But could you start sharing that and give me your website so I can go ahead and put that in?
Yeah, sure. So Facebook, IG, Twitter is at I am Coach T Will. So I am Coach T as in Tameka, and then the first four letters of my last name, Will. So that's easy for those particular areas. And Ebony, I'm glad you said you sent me a friend request because I get a lot of them, so I don't even accept majority of them. I've tried to leave the last few slots I have for clients because I'm almost maxed out. But the website is thecollegeprepboss.com. So that's real easy. Thecollegeprepboss.com. So I am Coach T Will. Did I say I am T Will? I probably did. I'm sorry. I am Coach T Will. My bad.
That's okay. I know it's late. So yeah, so for those who are watching now or are watching later, you can go to www.thecollegeprepboss. You can learn more about Tameka's programs as well as you can purchase her books. And so not only is she doing this, you know, the personal, the work with the families, but you can also have a resource that you that you can read, or if you either of your children are already out the house or you don't have any, but you know other families that are starting to get ready for this, you can purchase a book or you can get them in contact with her. But you heard her correctly, $75 million is what's been secured in less than a decade for the families that she's working with. And not only is she doing the personal coaching, but you are in classroom. I mean, you go to different schools, different classrooms. I mean, I just kind of follow what you've done over the years. So, you know, if you are in that process of trying to get your kids or helping other people get their kids into school, you can't make miracles if you're trying to get them in this year. But if you are on the track to start early, then definitely get in touch with her. And David, she's located, and you're in Atlanta, right? Or the Atlanta
Yep,
area?
I'm in Atlanta.
But
we work with, we work with clients. I had 2 international clients, not this past school year, 2 years ago. I had one in Japan and another one in out of Saudi Arabia. So yeah, we have clients all over. You know, hey, you got Zoom power. I was doing Zoom before the world learned about Zoom.
Smyrna, she in Atlanta, y'all in Georgia. I think a connection has been made.
Yeah, so no, go if you go to the website, you can schedule a discovery call and we can go from there. We do only have one cohort left for this year. We bring our VIP clients in through a cohort, so we have one cohort left for the year. We bring in 3 cohorts a year. The last one is going to open up the end of September to start in October. So that will be for everybody who are non-seniors. Who are non-seniors.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have you get on our mailing list. We'll have announcements around that. And by that time, both our 2 new books should be out. So right now, I know you talked about the books. Only thing you'll see on the website right now is the College Planning Journal. We revamped the flagship book, the Parents Send Your Child to College for Free book, because there was so much we had to update. We were supposed to do it last year, but COVID happened, and thankfully we waited because there were many changes as relate to COVID. So that actually the editors, the editor sent me both of the books back because we got a new book that's coming out too.
Oh, cool.
So actually, I got to work on that this week. Read the editor's comments and get it back to them, so I don't delay my timeline. But yeah. So just stay tuned. We got two new books. Well, the flagship book, a new version of it, and then a new book coming out. So no, a lot of new exciting things we're working on. We're always planning, reinventing, restructuring, improving it. It's that process improvement brain I have. I can't help myself.
Well, you definitely have a gift that you are sharing with people, and we appreciate it. So before we actually leave, I do want to give you the floor to just share any last words of wisdoms, drop some gems, or anything that you want to share.
I will say this. If you follow me on my videos, I always say the time to be ready is not the time to get ready. We must retrain our brains and teach our kids how to stay in a place of readiness. That is going to be my challenge to every family, because the reality is this: opportunities only come to a prepared person. So make sure your scholar is set up for success because they are prepared to take advantage of the opportunity. So preparing them to take advantage of the opportunity is teaching them how to plan, teaching them how to start early, helping them understand life is about process. This microwave generation mindset, it does not apply, nor does it work when it comes to college admissions and funding. It may work for other things. No, this one requires process, it requires steps, and there's some planning that's required. So get the knowledge, get the information, apply it, and know that you can start today with at least one thing. Pick one thing to at least start with. And that one thing I would challenge everybody to start with right now is applying for scholarships. That is one of the things we fail to do. And I am just challenging everybody, at least start looking for scholarships. There are scholarships available as early as kindergarten. I understand it's a job, because I get it all the time. It's a job. Well, how bad do you want it? You're either going to write a check, or you're going to put in the work, the sweat equity, some elbow grease to research, look for, apply, repeat.
Yeah.
To look for the money.
You want to write a check or you want to receive a check? Which one do you want?
Yes. Yeah. It's never too early to start. You are correct. Start now. There are things you can start doing, even if it's just, we pay for what we want. You don't have to make a whole lot of money to save. If it's just putting up $10 a month, you're doing something. I believe in starting where you are and you grow from it. Mm-hmm. Start where you are and grow from it, because $10 a month with compound interest over time is better than zero.
Yeah, it's better than, if you just take it always just a little bit adds up over time. So have that as opposed to just not doing it, period. And when the time comes to need it, you don't have anything.
Yeah, because we spend $10 at Chick-fil-A.
Multiple times.
At Starbucks. So we just reallocate, reappropriate funds. It's all about shifting our mindset, that college reboot, shifting our mindset and our focus on how we think about it. You either pay now or pay later. And when you pay later, you pay more.
I like that. And so with that, everybody, Tameka L Williamson, make sure you check her out on Facebook or Instagram. I am Coach T Will, or www.thecollegeprepboss.com. If you have young children, now is the time. And young is subjective, so just, elementary, definitely by high school. Get in touch with her, or if you know other people who are starting this process or have not thought to start this process, share her information. It's not going to hurt. You have resources that are available to you. Take advantage of it. So Tameka, thank you so very much. Good luck with everything as far as the new cohort, the clients, the books, everything else that's going to happen in the future. I mean, 75 million now. It's only going to be time before it's 100 million and beyond that. So just thank you so much. I mean, you shared a lot people, do you realize that she probably has shared this paying clients? So you got something a little bit free. But thank you so much. Look forward to more that you have. I think David might be getting in contact with you, David. So,
Well,
yeah,
Dr. Ward, I get to say Dr. Warren,
yeah,
Dr. Warren, Dr. Warren. I get to say it. So no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Because I don't know. I was like, I'm good. I'm not paying for another degree. I'm
yeah.
good.
But
So I
hey,
just continue to celebrate you and others who got their PhDs.
well, thank you. But I'm telling you, what you are doing, I mean, it is just is going to resonate because you're helping people just, pursue something that we just really sometimes think we can't do because the finances aren't there. But you're changing mindsets, that it's possible. So it's no money, you're getting the big bucks, but it's no price that we could put on that. So thank you for all that you are doing and will continue to do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
it. Thanks everybody for your questions.
Yeah, so thank you everybody. I know we went a little bit over. Thank you, Ebony. But Tuesday night talk with teachers. So again, our guest has been Tameka L Williamson. Please look in the chat to get her information. And I have a great evening, and I hope to see you all next week. Bye bye. Thank you again,
See
Tameka.
everybody. Y'all stay safe.
Yes, you too. Bye
All
bye.
right. Awesome. Bye bye.